Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's LeagueApps Learning webinar. We're going to wait a couple more minutes, and then we'll get started. All right, looks like the remaining attendees have joined. I want to thank you all for joining our third installment this year of LeagueApps Learning, and today's special topic is going to be analytics and reporting. So everything about, well, as much as we can with the time that we have, about data, where you can find it in LeagueApps, how you can refine it into what you're looking for, and all sorts of stuff like that. And I'm your host today. You know me if you've been to a future webinar or interacted on our customer support team over the years. My name is Taylor Collins. I'm the Director of Customer Support at LeagueApps. I've been here for 9 years. I was born and raised in Wyoming, but live in London, England now. And my youth sports experiences, I played soccer and basketball on rec leagues out in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and enjoyed it greatly. I can't say I was particularly good at either of them, but definitely positive youth sports experiences growing up there out in the Mountain West. And also, my esteemed colleague Faith Raster is here with us today, and she'll be helping me with questions and answers. So that's my first tip for you is in the Zoom webinar tools, you'll find the Q&A tool there where you can ask us questions as we go. And then we'll also save some time at the end to get through as many questions as possible for you. So let's get into it. What are we going to be talking about today specifically? So first, we want to walk you through your LeagueApps dashboard and how you can customize it, include the data that you want right when you open your LeagueApps accounts every day, and then also show you how you can use that dashboard to quickly get to other areas. So this first part is going to be kind of a tips and tricks section. It'll be short, but it is important to get around your LeagueApps account quickly and see the information you want at your fingertips. Section 2, we'll go through some basics. So we'll show you how to find all the different reports. Do want to give a big plug to filters. So like I said, there's a ton of data and information in LeagueApps, and it can be overwhelming at first, but if you get used to using filters, you can find what you want very quickly. And then also how you can export this information. Just about every list you see in LeagueApps can be exported to your computer. And then third, we're going to spend probably the majority of our time in the LeagueApps Analytics Suite, which is fairly new. I think we've had it for a couple of years, but I want to show you an overview of what's available. But more importantly, I want to show you how you can manipulate these tables, how you can hide columns, extract columns, reorder columns, how you can save those views so you don't have to do that every time, and then also show you how you can schedule exports of those data sets to anyone that you want. So very, very powerful tool that I want to show you everything I can about that. And then, of course, at the end, we will go over your questions and answers. So I'm going to switch over here to our LeagueApps Lacrosse demo account, where we've got a bunch of test programs here with a bunch of data in there. And like I said, we're going to start off here with the dashboard. So for most of you, depending on your admin level, when you log in every day, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see like a summary, and then down here, a list of programs. The first thing I want to tell you is that right here on your dashboard, these programs are ordered by invoiced amount, and this is how they're automatically ordered, but you can reorder these if you'd like. So you could say, well, I want to see which program has the most free agents in it. You can click on a column to reorder your data however you'd like here. Another very neat thing here is just about everything you see in green, actually, absolutely everything you see in green. If you click on it, it takes you to what that is. So this is a really neat thing. So if you logged in, you're like, well, I want to see all the coaches and my travel teams. You don't have to click on travel teams and then go to staff or go to people and then staff. It's right here in one click. And this is also important when it comes to customizing the view. So you could say, well, I want to see all my travel team or all my coaches for my travel teams. If you just click on the number 13 here, it takes you straight to the list of staff for these programs. And then I can click on the L up in the top left to take me back there. So again, I could do this for teams. I could do it for players. I could do it to see my invoices. So it's a really, really quick way to jump around your LeagueApps account without having to go a different route. So let's say you just want to see a few bits of data here. You're not really worried about free agents or things like that. What you can do is when you're on your dashboard, you click Customize View. And here you're going to see all the available columns available to you. And you can adjust these however you'd like. So let's just go ahead and wipe the slate clean. And we'll see what we'd like here. So, let's say when you log in, you're mostly concerned about financials and then getting to your lists of players, teams, and coaches quickly. So what we could say is like, well, I want invoiced, and then I want outstanding. So that way you could see, okay, out of all my teams, right when I log in, I'll be able to see how much has been invoiced, how much has been paid, and how much is outstanding. And then we could also say, I also want to know the players, and then we'll also see staff, and then we'll also see teams. So we could say, I just want to see these 6 columns right when I log in. And there we go. It refreshes, and now we have a customized view here, and it's very clean. So if you're the registrar or the treasurer, you could log in and quickly see, well, here's all my teams. Here's how they're doing. I could quickly see if like one particular team is farther behind than the other. And you could dig into that from there by looking at the invoices by just clicking. Or if you wanted to go look at the list of players, any of those things are right at your fingertips with one click. I could also go even further. I could click on View All Programs, and it takes me to an additional program summary report where I can see a few more bits of data. Again, I can also customize the view. You can also view your unpublished and completed programs too. So that can also be helpful if you need to go look at data in a program from past years. It's all going to be right there for you. One more for a list of programs is I can come up to Manage and All Programs, and this one's even more robust. And this is where I will touch on filters for a second. And this is a great first step in filters. So I came to Manage and All Programs. This is technically a report, although it's a listing. And now I could say, well, I want to look at all my tournaments, or I want to look at all my camps. So you don't have to scroll through a very large list of programs. A good thing to do whenever you're looking at a list in LeagueApps is to use your filters at the top to really narrow things down. And again, like I'll keep saying, whenever you see these green links with the LeagueApp screen, if you click on that, that's where it takes you. So you'll see this throughout, and I'll keep calling it out because when I'm on calls with our partners and other admins, I'll see them always kind of taking the long route to get to the data. So I do want to keep telling you that when you do see these links here, it's going to take you typically directly to where you want to go, depending on the report you're looking at. So I could say, yeah, I want to look at all my tournaments. I want to look at all of my tournaments for a particular sport, for example, or just for a particular season, depending on how you're using these. And then it'll narrow your data for you, so you don't have to comb through so many items. All right, I'm going to come back to my agenda real quick and make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, excellent. So next we're going to go look through where we can find reports, and I do want to show you some more filters so you can see how powerful these are. So most of our reports we're going to see under reporting at the top. There are some others in other places, but in general, you're going to find all of them here. And usually what we're going to be looking for in most cases is we're looking for registrations and transactions. That's by and large what we're looking for. We could also look for invoices or product orders, things like that. But but this is in general what you're always going to be looking for. And then I did want to call out the difference between what this is right here, which I'll show you in here in just a second. This is how we get into the new analytics suite, and versus these reports, which are kind of legacy reports, although they do still work. So for example, I could come to transactions, and this is where I'll show you the filters. So I'm actually going to come to transaction detail report. And depending on the volume and the season that you're in, you could have pages and pages and pages of transactions here. So for example, if you just sent out team invites a couple days ago, you're going to have perhaps dozens of pages here of transactions of parents coming in and making those payments. And let's say you just want to see something in particular. This is where these filters can really come into play. And there's a lot of options here. So I understand it can be overwhelming, but if we just kind of look at them one by one, we can usually get to what we want. So let's say I want to look at transactions from June. And in particular, let's say I just want to look for refunds that I issued in June. We could do something like that, or we could look for bank payments or etc. So here's where we can start to use these filters to look for those particular transactions. We could also filter by sport. We could search for a particular member, all sorts of things like that. And we can also choose how we want our list to be categorized. And we didn't have any refunds last month. Let's look for a different category. And we'll look for charges that we made last month. And we could also search for, in some particular reports, we could actually search for a transaction result. So we could look for failures and things like that. So now you can see if I had just searched for like months worth of transactions, it's going to show me a lot of different stuff. But now we just narrowed it down to June, and we're just looking for these successful transactions. So this is where the filters are very helpful, because it does get you to the information that you need more specifically, much more quickly by just spending a couple seconds to set your filters here. And I can also export this information very quickly as well. So if I click export, it will ask me then what columns of information I want to include in this export. Now you could export it all and then do some filtering in Excel or Google Sheets, whatever you use, or you can pick and choose here which ones you'd like. You can also use this check all or uncheck all, depending on what's going to be fastest for you. Now, one thing I want to call out here is when it comes to data security, a lot of LeagueApps reports include a lot of information, and a lot of that information is personal information about your members. So when you do export this information, you want to make sure you keep it safe. At LeagueApps, we don't recommend emailing this information back and forth. So that's just an important call out to keep this data safe once you do export it to your computer, which is going to be very important because it is a lot of personal details about your members and your customers. All right, so we're going to keep talking about filters and keep talking about exporting when we go into analytics, and this is where we're going to spend the most of our time here. So we'll come here, and this is going to take a moment to load. And once we're here, it's going to default to this organization report. Depending on your admin level, you may be able to see this or not with this organization level report. But the first thing I'll call out here is there's this search function up here in the top left, and we're going to wait for this to load. But what I can do is quickly, because there are a couple dozen reports here, and I can just search for what I want. So if I want to look at the registration report, we'll see they're all listed here. If I want to look for a transaction report, we'll see those too. Or if you're just browsing, you can also click on these little drawers here on the left to see what's included with financial, or tournaments, or registration. And they're all really powerful. Now, we're not going to have time to go over these in detail today. What I will direct you to is our help page. And if you go to our support site and search for analytics, there is a nice little brief description of all these reports and what they do. Also, if we head to a specific page, it will tell you that as well. And what we're going to work on today is we're going to look at the registrations report as well as the transactions report. So let's start with the transactions report, and we're going to wait for this to load. And again, we are going to look at the filters here and narrow down what we need, because you'll see it right now, it's at the last 2 months. And I'll show you a few of these filters here just so you know how they work. So I'll click on this transaction date, or this date filter is a pretty important one, where I can say, do I want the last 2 months, or do I want the last year, or do I want the previous day, things like that. So I could say, well, I just want the last 1 day and don't include today. And now we're just looking at yesterday. So you'll see here it says 7/28. We're seeing that there were 4 transactions yesterday. So let's say we wanted to build a report that every day I want to export and send a list of yesterday's failed transactions to one of my admins or somebody like that. So let's say you want to know every day um, who was having trouble registering yesterday or who had a transaction failure yesterday. So you can reach out to those customers and say, hey, we noticed you had a failed transaction attempt yesterday. Is everything okay? We just want to help you register if you ran into an issue, something like that. So it's a good way you could offer proactive customer service to people that might be having trouble entering their card information for any number of reasons. So we have all those filters here. So like I was showing you before, we had this huge list of transactions. You'd have to scroll through, see what the results were. But if we use our filters here, we can just see that very quickly. So we could say transaction type. We want to see all of them. Okay, and then we could, if we had multiple sites, we could do the same. We could filter by sites, program states, all sorts of things like that. And then you'll see here, we have 72 columns. That's a lot of information. I'll show you how to filter down those columns here in a different one. But we could come here and scroll to the right, and eventually we should get to a transaction result. Unless I'm telling tales out of school here. But what we could do here is we would be able to see, we're seeing transaction type here, and I don't know why I'm not seeing the result. I need to look at a different report. But what I could do here is I could come here and I could schedule this export, right? And then it would say, okay, I'm going to send all these different transactions to a specific email address on that may not even be in LeagueApps here. So I could come here and I would click Schedule Export, and then I could click Create New Schedule, and then here I could add an email address, so it could be your registrar. So it could be even, like I said, somebody that may not even be in LeagueApps. We'll put test.com, and then we could add a subject, and then here we could say, okay, every day at a particular time, we could call it 07 a.m. I'm gonna have this sent to myself, actually. And we could choose, we could put in a subject, a message, and then we could export transactions. We could choose what type here. If we wanted Excel or CSV, or we could even do it as an image. And then we could choose at what day and what time and once a day. And then I could click Create. And now we have this programmed in here that once a day at 7 a.m., this email address will be sent a list of yesterday's transactions. All right, and this is programming, and there we go. This is programmed here. And then if I ever needed to adjust this, I could click the little 3 dots here to delete it, or rename it, or edit, or send it now. So really, really handy to set up scheduling. And I did want to show you a different example of this too. So these are transactions, a very quick way. I apologize for not seeing the transaction state here. I think I'm just overlooking it. But let's go look at a different report here and look at registrations. And we're going to spend some more time here as well. So registrations, LeagueApps kind of at its heart is a registration platform. So this is a very heavily used report, and we'll dig into this one too. All right, we're just going to wait for this to load for a moment. All right, excellent. And where we're defaulting here is the last 2 years, including this year. So 2025 and 2026, that's a lot of information. And another example we hear is that you want to get registration information out of LeagueApps, but you don't want to make somebody an admin to be able to see all this. Now, perhaps we want to send this information periodically to a hotel or a booking agency because your teams are traveling to a tournament. So you want to send all this information to them like perhaps once a week, things like that, so they can reach out to those families for accommodations or any number of reasons. You need to send transaction data to an accountant or things like that. A lot of different options here that you may need to use this for. So let's say we just want to say last week. So we'll say previous 1 week, week starting Sunday, and we won't include the current week. So here we have some information. We can filter by program. So we could say, well, I just want to look at a particular program. I don't want to send information for everything. And again, we could search this here. We could say we want to do all these teams. I'm going to open this up a little bit just so we get more data. We're going to say last month. Oh, that's all we have for last month too. Let's say year. All right, I just want to make sure we see more data here. We have a bunch of teams listed, so we could choose whatever teams we wanted again, and we can choose a group. We can either filter by just a single program, or we could also do a grouped program as well. So you can do either one. So you say, I just need to get data for particular subprograms, or I could choose a grouped program. We can filter by team or name, all sorts of stuff here. Very handy. So the first thing I want to show you here, this is 95 columns of data over 108 rows. Now, just to pat ourselves on the back, that's a lot of information that you all are collecting just through registration, 95 columns of data. Now, not always going to have something, like you'll see team is blank here because they're free agents, but I'm guessing that if you did want to send information to somebody outside LeagueApps, you don't want to give them all 95 columns. So that's the first thing I'll show you here, and this is all going to lead up to how you can save the view that we're building here so you don't have to do it again. Another very common one, so I'll show you both, is let's say you need to get your information into a different system. Hopefully that turns on a light bulb for some of you. Like if you have to get USA lacrosse data into a different system, like a governing body system that they're using that's different from LeagueApps, they're typically going to be requesting a particular set of information. For example, name, email address, USA lacrosse number, things like that, team name, graduation year. And depending on if you're collecting that stuff with custom form fields or otherwise, you can get it all out of your registration report here, and you can save that as a bookmark or a saved report. So it's just there and ready for you whenever you need it, and you don't have to come in here and do it again. But like I keep saying, when you open this report the first time, it's got 8 filters, it's got 95 columns of data, it's showing you registrations for 2 years, and that's where you just need to get comfortable with using the filters, getting it the date range the way you want it, and then we can start trimming down some of these columns. So we could say, well, I don't need role. And what I'm doing is I'm holding down on a Windows keyboard, it would be the control key. On a Mac, it's the command key, and I'm holding down the command key on my Mac right now. And I'm going to select some columns that I don't need. So I don't need this, I don't need this. Team name, that looks useful. And we're going to start to trim some of these things down. And I'll just show you a few. I'm just going to select a few right now. And then I'll go ahead and right click now. Then you'll see I can delete 12 columns. All right, so you'll see down here, we're down to 83 columns. Now, I'm not going to go through each one because we'd be here for a while, but once you get it the way you want it, it's worth your time. Now, what we're also seeing here is most of you're going to be collecting custom form fields in your program as well. And all those custom form fields are going to be bundled under one column here. And if you ever need to get this information out, what you would do is we're going to find this column, and I'm going to right click on the first cell, and you'll see this option for extract columns. And here's a bunch of different ones. So let's say the one that I need is school. Or perhaps we need years of experience or emergency contact information, any sort of this stuff. So I'll go, let's say school's blank right now, but you'll get the idea. I could also choose shirt size. And here we are, so we are seeing some data here. Then I can click confirm. And now you see that these 2 columns have now been added into the report. All right. Okay, now let's say we also want to reorder things. So let's say, well, I need email address way over here on the left, and we can do the same thing here. So I can scroll until I find the parent's email address, which is going to be way over here. And I can click and drag, and I'm just going to keep clicking and dragging until I get this column way over to where I want it. Um, you can also freeze things like you can in Excel, but I'm going to keep scrolling over here until I get this column to where I want it. Oops, I went too far. Because I do want this parent one email way over here on that first page. You see we could also bring the name over, but you'll start to get the idea where I can get this report exactly the way I want it. So I could say I have the name, I've got the parent one email, and then I could include any other information I want and hide the other ones. Um, Now, let's say I wanted to save this. So I think a request I saw from our support team was I need to get this information to a governing body. What they need is name, email address, and graduation year. And this would be the exact report to do it because you can drag the columns around and hide everything else. And once you've got it exactly the way you want it, is I would click down here in the bottom right, you'll see this little bookmark icon. Maybe you notice this bookmark icon if you're a Kindle user or things like that, but this is kind of the universal bookmark icon now. And you'll click Save New View. And here we could say, governing body data, whatever you want to call it. You could set it as your default view as well, if this is what you want. So again, if there's a bunch of stuff that you just want to see when you get to this report, you could set it as your default, and then you'll click Save. All right, so now every time you come back here and you want to say, hey, I don't want to look at everything. I just want to go look at um, my report. You'll see there's a bunch of them that are saved here, which is pretty handy. You can save multiple versions of this, and you could just say, hey, I just want to look at my governing body because our governing league or something like that needs this information. And once you've done it once, as soon as you get that email from that registrar or something, you're like, yep, got it. You come here, set your bookmark, click export, and you'd have the data ready for that person in seconds. Instead of rooting around through a bunch of filters and having to do this over and over, you've got it, it's there, and you'll be a mastermind and the hero of the day for doing this so quickly. um, so let's show you a couple other tips and tricks. I did want to show you how to manage saved views. So let's say you need to delete some of these or you need to clean them up. You can also come here and manage your views to delete some of them if you want. So you can delete these, you can edit the name, because you do have full control over these customized views as well. Like you just saw, you can export, but I did want to show you some other cool things here as well. So we are there's a gap still between like what you could do in a spreadsheet program, of course, like Google Sheets or Excel, but there are a lot of things you can do right here as well where you don't actually have to export out of LeagueApps and do data manipulation. So for example, if I mouse over my report here, here's a filter icon. I can also maximize it to take up more space like that, which is pretty cool. And then I can also export the data as different formats. I can refresh the data. I can also find in tables, so I could search within this table as well. So if I'm looking for Steve, for example, it will show me all the instances of Steve here, so you don't have to search through everything either. So there's a lot of handy tools to get you exactly what you're looking for right here from within the report, so you don't have to search for it by eye. Filters, very cool. So you'll see here, let's say, hey, I want to see everyone with a birth date in 2016. You can filter by birth date. That's a common question we get because you might be collecting grade or birth year or graduation year, but if you just need to see people within a certain birth date range, you can do that. Invoice status, all sorts of filters here. So again, more filters. Get used to them. They are your friend, and they will save you. You can also add filters here too. So it's just a lot. It's a lot, but it's very, very powerful. And once you practice it for a few times, it'll save you time in the long run. Another very neat thing here that I want to show you is where you can actually look at column summary data. So I have my filter here, and now let's scroll to the right and find some transaction or invoice information, and we'll see here's the total paid amount. So a neat thing is if you're familiar with sum functions in Excel, you could export this, put it into Excel, add up all these columns and try and figure out how much this is. Or right here in LeagueApps, I can click on this little downward arrow column. And again, filters are everywhere. I can do custom sorts, I can filter, I can rename columns. But a neat thing here is I can click on column details and it's going to give me statistics right here. And here's my sum function. I don't have to take it into Excel or run a different report. It's going to show me right here, and it's going to show me a bunch of other stats as well. So, for example, you could run your filters and say, hey, I want to see how much was paid in this particular program over this date range. It would hand it to you right here without having to go do your math somewhere else. Okay, so let me show you one more time. So again, we have our filter here. We need to send it to someone else. You know this already, but I could come down here and click an export, and I could either download it or I could send it by email. So I did show you how to schedule one before, but I could click download or I could click email, and I could do a one-time export by email to whatever email address I wish. So you don't have to actually export it and put it into your Gmail or something. You could have it emailed straight from here to that governing body registrar or wherever it needs to go. And then, of course, again, you choose your formats and things like that on whatever format you'd like, whatever email address it needs to go to. So very handy. So a lot of tools right here in LeagueApps. So you don't actually have to export that stuff into Excel and do it from there. So excellent. So I do see some questions coming in, and I want to go to those. Cool. So let me look at the first question. We have one about check-ins. This is a very good question. So we have all this here, and I will go through some of these reports, actually. This might be a good time to do it. So if you're using an accounting software like QuickBooks or something, these reports may be very helpful for you, these cash accounting reports. E-commerce, if you're selling products through LeagueApps, e-commerce is a very good report for you. Financial, if you want to know who redeemed a discount code and when, we have discount code redemptions as well as for credit balances and credits issued. These are really, really helpful reports if you're using credits as well as discount codes. Invoices, this is just an invoice report. If you want to look at payment plan installments, or I'm sorry, invoice items and invoices. Another neat thing is you're like, hey, what's the difference between invoice items and invoices? When you go into a report, you will get a little description at the top. So detailed invoice item data on the organization level. And then, of course, you can use filters. I can also use the invoices report. We have LeagueApps Gateway bank transfers. All that stuff is here. Very, very handy. We looked at the transaction report already. Another neat report is these comparison reports, which can actually show you data over year or over site. So you could say, hey, over the last few years, what program type netted the most transactions, what sites netted the most transactions. So this is a nice comparison report across your entire organization. And we have similar ones under programs as well. So this is a nice roll-up report if you did want that level of analysis. And now I want to go to the question at hand, which is where can I get a report to download check-ins? So if I come to attendance here, an important thing to note is sometimes these reports have multiple reports on one page. So for example, this is an attendance summary report. This is the first one that we'll see, where we're seeing like check-ins and things per program. But if I scroll farther down on this page, we will see program attendance and player attendance, where it does get more granular, where you can see it by player or by event. So I believe this is what you're looking for here. We'll wait for this to load, and hopefully we see some information here. So we'll see here's some specific players or individuals in these programs. So I could say I want to export this information so I can get the specific attendance data for Jane. This report will show you, but it's just like I was saying, this attendance report has 3 reports in one. So you just want to go through here and see which one you're looking for, and we'll give you the information that you need. Our next question is hockey ID. So how can I extract the USA hockey number? Um, it should be in your registration report. So if you are using the USA Hockey integration, it would show up as its own column. If that's not showing up for you, definitely let us know so we can look into it for you. But let me wait for this to load. Let me see if it's. I could switch over to the hockey one and see if it's showing up there. But what I can do, I know this one has lacrosse, so I could find in table. I should be able to find lacrosse. We're going to see a lot of columns here, so with lacrosse in them. But let me see here. But it should show up here. It wouldn't be a custom form field. It would be its own column for USA Hockey. But again, if you're not seeing that here in the report, let us know at the support team. So support at leagueapps.com or click the question mark in the bottom right, and we'll look into that for you. But again, it wouldn't be a custom form field. It should be its own column. All right, cool. So we also have a question here. When LeagueApps adds or changes reorders columns in the source reports, this won't impact saved bookmarks or scheduled reports. And that there's a current request to add past due balance to the invoice. No, it wouldn't. So if we added columns at LeagueApps, like if we made an adjustment to this report, it wouldn't affect your bookmarks. The bookmarks would be saved as just having those columns. That shouldn't affect the order. Yeah, and that's a good feature request around the past due balance to the invoice report. That's certainly something we can look into to get added. Yeah, but keep the questions coming. Anybody else have any? I'll wait here for a minute. A good question about imports. We've talked a lot about exports, and LeagueApps at this time does not have import tools. Specifically, the question is around importing photos. Photos do need to be added one at a time currently, but that is a request we get from time to time to have more robust import tools. So, perhaps you could import a bunch of members from a different database or something like that. So that's a good question. Another good question: separating first and last name into separate columns. That's a great question. I might be stumped here from the expert. Let me see here and scroll to the right here and see if we do have first name. We have parent first name and last name, but I believe the player name is pulled into one. But what we will do is I'll look into that for you and make sure I'm not missing something here to see if we can export or split those out into separate columns of first name and last name. But that's a great question. Right now they are as one when it comes to the participant name. All right, I'll wait here for a couple more questions and then we'll go ahead and call it. But I do have a poll for you. Yeah, excellent. We have another question about imports. Again, we don't have a way to import information now. It's a great question and hopefully something we can do in the future. But at this time, we don't have a way to import information en masse currently. Okay. Well, if you do have questions about this, please don't be shy with our support team. Again, when you're in your LeagueApps account, click on support in the bottom right-hand corner. We know who you are, so it fills in your information automatically. So feel free to send us a question there. Be like, hey, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. I saw something on the webinar. I don't remember. We are going to send everyone a recording when we're done here. But please let us know. We do want to help you. The support team likes hearing from you all, and we like answering your questions. So let us know. We'll help out as much as we can. And we did get one more final question before I give you the poll. So We have two questions actually. So one is how do I download a signed form? That's going to be, oops, I just broke my own rule here. So that's going to be within a program itself. There's a couple different ways to do it. You can find it in a player profile, but if I wanted to download a form, whether it's a waiver or a form that they've uploaded, what I would do is I would come here and I would click on that person's name. So you do need to find their registration. But once you found their registration and you click on their name from this list, you will see options to download those forms. So these are the waivers that have been accepted. Um, you'll see that this player actually has the birth certificate missing. We may have it in a different, no, all these players have the birth certificate missing, but if it was here, you'd be able to download those forms or those file uploads straight from here. Another question regarding the abandoned registration report. And I did want to show you this. So abandoned registrations report, it's going to show you everyone. It's two different data sets. This is a really handy report, and I'm glad somebody asked. So there's two reports here. One is going to show you all members that have an account in your League Apps, but no registrations. So mom or dad, they created an account. They think they're done. I don't know why they would think they're done, but they created an account, but they never actually went through registration to sign up and pay for a program. So it's almost like if you were shopping online at Amazon or something, you created an account, but you didn't buy anything. That's a good comparison there. So that's what this first report is. So if you're fairly new on League Apps or you're in your first year, this is also a neat report to come here and say, like, I want to see everyone that actually created an account on League Apps but didn't actually register, because you could also use this information to reach out to those people and say, hey, what happened? How can I help? Um, Also, there's a second report for abandoned registrations, and this is going to show you everyone who tried to register for a program, but then their registration timed out because they didn't pay in time. And the question specifically was, while this report is loading, is can these be removed if somebody does register? And not at this time. That's a great question. This is going to show you everyone who did have an invalidated registration. This report is not designed to remove information. There could certainly be scenarios where you need to go find those abandoned registrations. But I think what good feedback is in that question is perhaps, again, going back to filters, we can certainly talk to our product team about adding a filter here to see if we can exclude registrations where they did succeed. So for example, the question is like, let's say Bryce here, he did have an invalidated registration, but then he went through again and did pay. Um, we could talk to our product team about adding a filter here to exclude those. I think that would be a handy feature. All right. I don't think we have any more questions. I think Faith got to them all, but I really, really appreciate everyone coming here. I'm going to put a poll up on the page if I can figure out how to do this correctly. All right. I'm going to give you a poll. If you could answer these questions, you can influence what we're going to do next. So this is not our last webinar. It's the last one we have on the calendar right now, but we're going to add more. August is a very busy month, so you may not see us again until September. We'll see. But please answer these two questions. We'd really, really appreciate your feedback. And again, we'll aggregate these results to influence what is going to be in our next LeagueApps Learning webinar. Okay, I'll leave the poll up for just a couple more minutes. Um, and I just want to finish off here by saying thank you all so much. This is our third LeagueApps Learning webinar. We didn't do webinars for a while, and we're getting back into it, and we're getting a lot of people attending. So we'll keep them coming, and we definitely want to hear about what you want to see. So we've done one on member management and member merges. Then we did one on scheduling. And now we're doing this one on reporting and analytics. A lot of great questions, and we want to keep doing them. I'd like to do one every month, if not more frequently, so we can keep teaching you about all these powerful tools that you have in your LeagueApps account. All right, I'll leave this up for just 30 more seconds in case anybody's thinking it over. All right, perfect. Well, again, thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.